Hello, Steve. Hello, Jill. It's time to game classy.
All right, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes.
There we go. Hey, we're recording now. We got this party going.
That was a weird and mysterious thing that happened there.
Oh yeah, it was just like when the Bears lost to the Dolphins in the '85 season. It was an anomaly.
It was just like when I was on that hunting trip with Jim and we saw the Sasquatch.
The Sasquatch. The damn Sasquatch. Get out of my picnic basket, you damn Sasquatch.
I said, "Hey Jim, there's a squatch," and he didn't believe me.
That's the one shot I'm writing for Chaosium right now. It's called a Sasquatch in my picnic basket. It's an adventure for 4 players and a keeper where they go on a picnic and Sasquatch gets their sandwiches and they gotta yell. They gotta get that damn Sasquatch out of their picnic basket.
So it's the players versus Yogi Bear.
Essentially. Essentially, but there's a dark god behind the whole thing.
I mean, that's bold of you to assume that wasn't the case with Jellystone Park as well.
Yes, it's true. What if Jellystone Park is like a center of occult activity and Yogi Bear is an elder god? He's smarter than the average bear. That would explain it.
This is true. That's how he's gained his cursed intelligence.
He's gained his intelligence as he's pledged his loyalty to like Nyarlathotep.
Yep, yeah, and Boo Boo is like his homunculus or something.
Ooh, a homunculus, hey.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be like if Boo Boo was from like the Black Lodge. He's like was the midget from Twin Peaks from the White Lodge? I can't remember.
He was from the White Lodge.
He was from the White. Okay, so Boo Boo's from the White Lodge. He just comes out and he just like picnic basket.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, that's West Side Story. It's not Twin Peaks. I can't remember how the Twin Peaks White Lodge theme goes.
Close enough.
It's close enough. I haven't watched Twin Peaks in a long time. I really should give it a rewatch.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't have time for that anymore in my life. I'm 43 years old. I'm going to die very soon. I don't know if I should waste that much time watching Twin Peaks again.
Could you really consider watching Twin Peaks a waste of time?
Yeah, there's a good chunk of it. I mean, like when they're eating that sandwich that's like just cheese and butter, it's like I get it, but it's like that's a long fucking scene there, David Lynch.
I mean, David Lynch has got a thing for food.
He does.
Very specifically, he has a thing for food.
I love a good pimento loaf.
Nachos. They called them nachos. There wasn't a single bit of the meal that was Mexican.
I like that. The famous one is where he goes out to dinner with George Lucas to discuss Return of the Jedi, and it's a vegan restaurant or a vegetarian restaurant. And he goes, all they served was salad. I like salad, but I don't know if that's all I want. I started getting this headache right around the time they were talking about these teddy bears.
Yeah. David Lynch is a literal crazy person. It's
he
awesome.
is, and I love him for what he does.
It's awesome.
He's not like, you would think that he would be one of those guys that would probably be accused of something or other, but he has passed the accusal tests at this point. So, which is I find admirable, because you would think for sure as a guy who puts himself in the TV shows to be around, young ingenues.
I have to say, I believe he is too whatever he is to get into such activity.
No, I have a teeth fetish. You don't need to do anything but smile.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like he's whatever he is like too much to like ever cross that line. So like he'll never be one of those like, oh, I heard David Lynch is doing. It's like, nope. just like nope, that is not happening.
That's very all right. Welcome to Game Classy. I'm your host Joe, and with us always my co-host Steve.
Game Classy.
There we go. So we had like 2 jam-packed casts the last 2, and this time I kind of feel like it's just more of the more same outrage. It's always just outrage, Steve. Why can't we have anything positive ever to talk about on this podcast?
Everything's outrageous. I don't know what's
outrageous.
What's the new outrage? I was going to talk about something cool, but
what were you going to talk? Let's talk about your cool stuff first.
Well, no, we should talk about the bad. You always do the bad stuff first, and then
do the bad stuff first.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, like, we got like 3 stories of just like companies that are just it's awfulness. Like, we'll start with Games Workshop because we always start with Games Workshop. They're raising their prices again. Why not line go up, Steve? Why not line go up?
Yeah, I mean, it's to be expected.
I mean, it's just ridiculous at this point. Like, I get it, but it's what the hell are they doing that they need to raise their prices again?
Mm-hmm.
They do it every year, right? They raise the prices.
They raise their price every year. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's an annual price rise. Like, that's
I just don't understand. It's gonna like. Okay, so I understand from a capitalism standpoint of why you want to raise your prices constantly, because you want to make more money. And if you eventually never reach that point where people stop buying your product, why not keep raising their prices?
Right.
That makes sense to me. But in the same token, it's just like, my God, they're gonna hit that. They got to be hitting that peak soon. It has to. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna at some point.
Like I'm a guy with a decent job. I make a decent paycheck. I can afford Games Workshop product. I don't even buy it anymore because it's too expensive. Like, most of the time, if I'm getting something, it is used and half off, if even. But yes, it's cheap at this point. I don't know the last time I bought anything new for full price. God, I couldn't even tell you.
I think the last thing I got was the starter, the Age of Sigmar's 3rd edition starter. I think that was the
Dominion.
Dominion, yeah.
Yeah, I did pay. I bought that from a game store, but that was a while ago. That was like what, 2019?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 5 years, maybe. I can't even think about it. I did no, because I bought that on discount too. I'm trying to think. Does it count if I use my Games Plus auction credit? Is buying full price?
I would say yes.
Okay. Well, then I did buy some stuff with the last auction credit that I got, but I don't really consider that because it's not like real money; it's funny money.
Yeah, I'm considering it from like the industry would count that as a full price sale because that was a store bought it from Games Workshop and they recorded it as a full price sale.
No, I mean, that's a legit way of looking at it. I'm not going to argue that, but I don't consider it because I don't really consider that to be actual dollares. But yeah, it's like, God, and then I think it's in like Sweden and Finland, or Sweden and Norway are getting extra hurt on the price increase. Like, it's like 13%.
That's probably, I imagine that's some sort of Brexit thing.
Yeah, I imagine that as well. But I also think it's funny because the one thing I love was whenever Norway or Sweden is brought up into any sort of conversation anywhere on the internet, the Swedish and Norwegians come out so vehemently to fight whatever language and linguistics you are using to describe them. Because you'll be like, well, you know, it's the Scandinavians, and they'll be like, we are not all Scandinavians, and like blah 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 blah. You know, they get so butthurt about being a country people only think about when we're talking about expensive prices and or terrible food.
I thought they were all Scandinavian.
Yeah, it's or we'll say like Norway, whatever. It doesn't matter. They just get mad at whatever you say, whatever you call them. They're gonna be mad.
I see.
Like, even if you call a person from Sweden Swedish, they'll be like, we're not all technically Swedish. Swedish is just a subcapital of blah blah blah.
I see.
Yeah, they're very angry people for being supposedly as happy as they are.
I see.
Yeah. Now the Danes, those are obnoxious people. Let's just make fun of Europeans, Steve.
Why you got it out for the Danes, man?
They're too tall, and their language is stupid. Yeah. So there's your Danes right there. Too tall. They're like all 6 foot tall, Steve. They're giant people. Giant people.
Well, I mean, What are you gonna do about it?
Nothing. You can't do anything about it. I'm not going to Denmark anytime soon. What am I going to do? Ride a bicycle? Fuck them.
But you could go get some frites.
Get some frites. You can get that anywhere. I get that in America. I get better frites in America. I almost
They don't got frites in America. You can't get them.
You can get frites in America.
No, you can't.
You can get some at Mon Ami Gabi. It's literally down the block from my house.
I've never seen it. Not once, not how. If I ain't seen it, it ain't real.
You know what frites is, Steve? It's fucking French fries.
Yeah, I know, but they got them in that weird like cone thing with.
Yeah, you could get that anywhere. And what you get? You could literally go to McDonald's, get some French fries, put some mayonnaise on it. There's your frites. Boo.
But they're not in the cone.
They're not.
You gotta have the cone.
You gotta get the cone. The cone makes it.
If it's not in the cone, it ain't frites.
You sound like every Chicago hipster I've ever known right now.
You gotta have the cone.
You gotta have the cone. Actually, I just had fries in a cone over at what's that restaurant? I just went to this restaurant downtown Chicago, and I can't think of what it was, but it did have the French fries in the cone.
That's funny.
Yeah, I got that with some mussels, some Belgian mussels. As you know, getting seafood in Chicago, coastal seafood in Chicago, smart idea on my part. But there you go.
Yeah, you know.
I know. I have a friend who's always like, oh, we're gonna get good oysters in Chicago. I'm like, don't get oysters in Chicago. It's like, yes, you can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. We're very, very far from coasts that would have these.
You can go to Bob Chin's. Bob Chin's is fine. Bob Chin's airlifts their shit.
It doesn't matter though. You're still like most of those places on the coast, you get it fresh, like right out of the ocean, like an hour before you eat it. I appreciate my seafood being airlifted in, but it's still long enough that I would much rather just have a steak. Give me something else other than the oysters that have been medevaced from the coast so that to my gullet.
They've been medevaced. They gotta get there.
Yeah, no shit. Or a lobster roll. I can't wait for a lobster roll. It's like, motherfucker, you live in Chicago. Eat a slice of deep dish pizza like you're supposed to, you motherfucker. You want a lobster roll? Go to Maine.
Isn't a lobster roll cooked lobster though?
Yeah.
Okay, well that doesn't matter.
I tell you, but it's even still. It's like, why do we need lobster in Chicago? You know, leave it to the Mainers. We got some Chicago people coming here.
Eat that crab.
Gonna eat all our lobster rolls out here. You know?
Why did it sound like Jimmy Stewart?
Because that's what a person from Maine sounds like. You're
telling me that there's been a state full of Jimmy Stewarts this entire time that I didn't know about?
Yeah, pretty much. My standard Maine accent is basically based off the line "Storms are coming," so you just go "Storms are coming, big one, nice." That's my Maine accent. Unless you want me to do Stephen King Maine accent, but then I just have to do a line of cocaine and talk for 45 minutes straight.
You do your Stephen King, and I'll do Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
I
can't actually do. Stephen King doesn't really have an accent. He's just Stephen King.
That's. I suppose that's true.
Yeah.
I can't do a good Michael Caine.
You can't do it. No, it's all right.
Can't do it.
Michael Caine. Master Wayne. You know how you do Michael Caine? You got to have the trick to doing any good impression is you got to have that line that gets you in the impression. So for Michael Caine, my line is the size of a tangerine. You say tangerine, and that gets you in the Michael Caine.
I see.
There. Yeah. So you just got to find that line. So you could also be like, and it's called The Prestige. And there you go. That's your Michael Caine.
I see.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the other thing was we didn't talk about this on the last cast. We went real long on the last cast, so I didn't bring it up. But so Embracer Group is breaking up, and we've been talking about Embracer because they bought the rights to the Lord of the Rings.
Yes, yeah, and they've owned Asmodee for a while.
They owned Asmodee, and now Embracer is breaking up and putting all of its debt into Asmodee. And I'm assuming that they put all the debt into Asmodee because Asmodee is probably the least moneymaker for them, maybe? I don't know.
Most likely. I think that's usually how you do your shuffle.
Yeah, so you put all your money into a subsidiary that doesn't have that's at least profitable, and then they take on all the debt, and then when they die, another company could buy up all of their rights and everything for cheap in a fire sale.
Yes.
So more than likely, Embracer will buy up all the rights to the Asmodee stuff into another company, and therefore, what's the word I'm looking for? Just restart again with no debt. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
That's like their plan.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a strategy behind it. I just don't. I could not even speculate as to what it is.
What was that TV show with Brian Cox? With that was super popular like a year ago, and now everybody's forgotten about it. What's that?
Cheers.
Not Cheers. Brian Cox wasn't in Cheers. Norm, you son of a bitch.
Oh, was it the Succession show?
Successions. Yes, I'm sure. Like if we watched Succession, we would understand all of this shit that's going on with Embracer Group right now. Yeah. Just like every American, after they watch a TV show, we now understand fundamentally what the TV show is about because we watched 6 hours of television about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the rules.
God, I'm cranky this morning. Fuck.
You are. You're all ornery.
I am ornery today.
It's too early in the morning to be so agitated.
I didn't get like a really good night's sleep, and I don't know why. There was no real reason for it. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah. So Asmodee is now, I guess, on its own. I don't know when that takes place. So it looks like the Lord of the Rings rights might be secured.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting twist on that, Steve. What if after this whole thing happens, Games Workshop buys up the rights to the Lord of the Rings from No, I think Embracer is still holding on to the Lord of the Rings rights. It's not,
because they're still holding on to Middle Earth Enterprises.
Yeah, they'll hold on to Middle Earth Enterprises. I was just thinking it would be nice if Games Workshop bought that.
I mean, I don't think Games Workshop could afford Middle Earth Enterprises.
I don't know. How much did they buy Middle Earth Enterprises for? Was it $1 billion?
I mean, I don't know what they bought it as, but I think they paid way less than what it's worth when Embracer bought it.
Well, I don't, that's what they say, but
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, Embracer paid $400 million for it.
Wow, only $400 million. Games Workshop could afford $400 million.
But that's what no, that's what Embracer paid for it. What they would sell it for, its current market valuation appears to be $2.9 billion.
Yeah, but when did they buy it? They only bought it like a year or so ago.
Let's see. A surprise deal last summer. Yeah. Legit. It's just a massive. They just got the sickest deal ever of all time, literally.
But you know what though, and this goes with a lot of. It's like people have a hard time understanding when their favorite franchises aren't actually as culturally relevant as they wish they were. Like the Lord of the Rings movies are over 20 years old at this point. The Lord of the Rings is still in the cultural zeitgeist. Like people understand it, but it's like Harry Potter in a lot of ways, where women over the age of 40 don't want to hear Harry Potter isn't culturally relevant anymore. They get so mad when you say that. Like, like you're like, oh, nice sign that says this house is for muggles only. And you're like, what's a muggle? They get so mad at you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the massive smash hit Lord of the Rings Amazon show, pushed it much more into like a more relevant, like I think that pulled the movies forward, if that makes sense. Because there's people who are getting into Lord of the Rings because of the Amazon show, and then after they watch the Amazon show, they're like, oh, I want to watch these old movies.
You would think so. However, what they say, the completion rate on the Lord of the Rings TV show is only 35%. I know you and I really liked it. It's just, a lot of people did not. But it's just not as relevant anymore. And I think I think we as a society are tired of all of these old things that just won't go away. Like we're desperate for something new. And you could see that even in like the Marvel movies, which is the last big franchise to kind of end. It's like even Marvel is struggling at this point to come up with something that people are going to be interested in. Star Wars, Marvel, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, like people like these things, but it's it's not to the relevance and fervor that it was when they were at their peaks, which was a while ago. Right now, America is struggling desperately for something new, and it's hard to find. They're trotting out the fucking Hunger Games again with new movies.
Really?
Yeah,
They're already going back? Damn. Those movies aren't that old.
they're prequels, Steve. Prequels, the best type of movie, so you could find out like what's going to lead up to the stuff that you've already watched.
I hate prequels so much.
I do too. I absolutely.
I can't stand prequels. That's why I'm like actually super. It's actually really funny that that the prequels are brought up, because I just saw a trailer and I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be fucking dope, because it looked like Mad Max, and I was like, oh, it is Mad Max. I was like, fucking awesome. And then I saw it's a fucking goddamn prequel.
Oh yeah, Furiosa.
I'm so mad that movie's a prequel.
Yeah. The only thing that I'm not sad about is that it's actually directed by the main guy, so at least it's gonna be really nice looking.
Oh well, I mean that is, you know what? I will give it that. I hate the fact that it's a prequel. I'm not gonna give that prequels. I was just about to go on my rant about prequels. Like no, like everything about your character's past that is relevant is known by the time you watch them in their present form. Like, simple as that. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, so like we've talked about before, there's no fucking stakes.
Nope,
There's no stakes. There's no stakes. There's nothing interesting. There's nothing to learn. Now, if you want to
what
do
about Blandor, Steve? It's the best Star Wars thing ever.
here's the thing. I mean, I'm not watching Blandor, but here's the thing. If you want to do a prequel and it has nothing to do with your like main thing's plot, you just want to set it in like a historical period of your story, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be too opposed to that. Like what's the face, like Rogue One. Like Rogue One is like, Rogue One's technically a prequel, right?
Yes.
So like Rogue One, I would say, is what I'm talking about when I say you're doing it right. Because Rogue One covered a story that we knew, but we didn't know the story.
Yes, they covered it poorly too, because everything that happens in the first two acts of that movie have no bearing on the third act. But Star Wars.
But that's what I mean. Like, if you're covering something that isn't actually attached to your main plot, like, okay, that's fine. Like, great. You know, maybe that's interesting. Something to know. I still think you should just do something new, but like, it's just, yeah. I don't know.
That exactly explains my feelings on prequels as well. It's like, it's the more of the stakes issue. It's that if we're only watching the prequel because of the character that we watched in the previous movie, you are 100% correct, Steve. Everything that we should need to know about the character that's in the second movie, we should already know, because that's how the script is written. Then when you're writing the prequel about everything, any character that you're introducing into that prequel that is not in the actual movie itself, I am assuming that person dies. And if they don't die, it's no good, because I've already assumed that he is dead, so they are dead to me as a audience member.
Right.
If that makes sense, because I don't care about them. They no longer exist in the movie that I do care about. So there you go.
Yep.
And so I guess all that comes down to the fact that now they announced that they're doing a bunch of new Lord of the Rings movies. The one that they were talking about is The Hunt for Gollum, which would everyone's saying it's either going to be starring Gollum or starring a younger Aragorn and Gandalf looking for Gollum. But I just, why are we doing that? I get that they want to put in characters that we're probably used to, but I think it would be cooler to do something like, well, you know what I would say would be a cool idea, Steve? How about this? We do a movie, or maybe let's do 2 movies or 3 movies. I don't know, however you want to do it. Probably a trilogy, because that's what happens with Lord of the Rings. That takes place that's between the dwarves of the Lonely Mountain, so
Okay.
Dane, the elves of...
Dude, I got Dane.
You got Dane. You got Dane? I got Dane.
Dude, I got Dane.
That's old school Games Workshop right there.
That's like the old. That's like if anyone is listening who got that meme, you're cool.
That is old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 2000, like, too old. Not that old. Like 2004 old.
Yeah. Dude, I got
20 years
Dane.
old. Mean. the dwarves of the Lonely Mountain versus not versus, but like having to fight against the orcs during the as basically I want to have a movie that's about the elves of Mirkwood and the dwarves of the Lonely Mountain having to fight off Sauron's forces in their own respected ways at the time when the Battle of Gondor is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
you could even have like the men of Arnor fighting as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that would be cool, but I don't want to see Aragorn because I've already seen Aragorn. No one can beat Vigo. No matter who you're going to get, it's not going to be Vigo.
Exactly.
Get. Yeah.
That is exactly it. I do not want them to remake the Lord of the Rings movies ever. And here's the thing: I actually want. I'm not opposed to more content in the Lord of the Rings world because I think there's plenty out there. But I'm annoyed that the first thing I heard you say is the hunt for Gollum, and it's like fuck. Like I already seen these characters a bunch of times. Give me characters I haven't seen. Go to the fucking Silmarillion, cover that, or do the fucking Children of Hurin. Like there's so many incredible things one could go to instead
the Battle of Baron and Luthien. That's like a pretty epic.
Yeah. There's so many stories you could go to instead of covering characters that we've already,
Tell me about Fatty Bolger, Steve. Tell me about Fatty Bolger.
Yeah, Fatty Bolger. You know what? Make a fucking kids Hobbit movie about the hobbits. Like, do a fucking story about Fatty Bolger. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you give me that kind of stuff,
he is an unsung hero of that book.
I mean, I'm okay with that. Fatty Bolger.
Well, he was the fifth Hobbit, and he stayed behind.
Fatty Bolger. That's great.
Yeah, but. Yeah, so that's Lord of the Rings. We're gonna get a bunch of new movies about it. That's part of the reason I'm ornery today. I'm ornery today, not orny. Orny sounds like I'm partially horny, or was a British horny where I dropped the H. I'm orny.
The H.
Unlike dropping the T, which we did in the harbor. What's up? And then the other thing is, did you see D&D? Our Wizards dropped a thing about AI generative art.
I did not know.
Yeah, they dropped a new FAQ for people who are really angry about something that has been happening around them and they have no concept of. But as soon as they find out that they're doing it, they're getting really upset about it.
Okay.
Which is AI art. We've talked about this before. It's just it's coming. You can't do anything about it. Nothing is going to stop AI art from taking over everything.
I mean, it's just like AI translation. Like AI translation devalued the actual art of translation by a lot.
Yeah,
because they didn't care that it wasn't good or really great or accurate. They cared that it was fast and free.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's all capitalism cares about. And if but that's the funny thing is like most artists are very much not capitalists. So that's why they are very angry with it. I totally agree with it. I don't think AI art should be used in things like Dungeons and Dragons because you know what? It devalues Dungeons and Dragons. And it's part of my one of my bigger problems with 5th edition is that 5th edition, though everything is nice, tends to feel really fast. If that makes sense. Like everything seems to be pumped out very quickly for 5th edition. So there is a feeling of it's more quantity over quality, so to speak. Not to say that the stuff that you get is really good quality. Most of the time, some of the books have been terrible lately. The Planescape books have been really bad, apparently.
I know there's been the quality level has been up and down, or the reception level has been up and down for sure. But I have to say, as far as like the release schedule goes, this is the best paced, the friendliest paced Dungeons and Dragons has literally ever been in history. Like by a lot. Like the release frequency is slower than any other edition ever.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it's actually a very, very slow paced thing. The reason it feels so big is because so a lot of people don't know this because like it like just never, I mean, but a lot of people don't know this, but the original intent of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, like, I don't know if I'd say mission statement, but like the original strat was the 3 core books were going to stay in print. So like you were always gonna be able to buy the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual, and the Player's Handbook. And then when they came out with a book, so say like the Tyranny of Dragons, they were gonna come out with Tyranny of Dragons, and the idea was it was going to go out of print. Like Tyranny of Dragons, they're done. Like this book is done. We're no longer printing it. It's over. And people were like, "Wait, what do you mean we can't buy this book anymore?" And they're like, "No, it's done. We're going to go to the next book, and we're just going to." That's how they're going to do the supplement book. So the idea was that the supplements were going to come and go. And the fan reaction to that was so like overwhelmingly like, no, like we need these books. Like you can't do that. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like so they were like, okay, I mean, we'll do another print run if it sells, if the market demands it, we'll do it. And people kept buying the books so much they basically abandoned their entire business strategy. So they've kept all of their books in print from the beginning to now. So it seems like there's a huge volume. I think there's a perception of a huge volume of books because there are a ton of books available actively in print for 5th edition. But how often they come out, it's really like once a quarter, like if that.
I mean, you're right. It is only like once a quarter. And one of the other things too is that Games Workshop, Dungeons and Dragons in previous editions tended to have a lot smaller books. Like they would release a lot of books that were in thinner print, only 30 pages, 30 to 40 pages. Now they tend to compile a lot of their stuff into bigger books, which are more expensive. I mean, you're paying $60 for the book generally, and it seems like you're paying a lot more, even though back in the day you'd pay a lot less for more. So it's like, do I want to pay $60 for one book? Nah. Do I want to pay $20 for 3 books, $20 each for 3 books? Yeah, sure, no problem. That's my fault. That's my fault as a consumer there. But yes, Wizards put out a generative AI art FAQ, and they just basically, what are your policies around art? And it's I like one of the questions is, why are you not being transparent about AI use? It's like, because we're $1 billion company and fuck you. That's why.
Yeah.
Every one of these questions should be answered with, we are $1 billion company, so fuck you. If you don't like it, don't buy it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too, is like people have only caught what they've caught so far. So think about how much has gotten through.
Well, that's the thing I think that drives me nuts about the whole thing is people who get upset about it, and you are not upset with the AI art. You're upset with capitalism. Like, just get that through your heads. You are upset with capitalism. And if you want this to change, you can't ask the capitalist company to not go the easy route and make money. You have to attack the source.
I mean, tell you straight up, I'm always going to choose the easiest route to make money myself. So
I mean, yes, everyone will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we live in a capitalist society.
That's how it works.
Like if we lived in a socialist society where we all kind of helped each other out, and you knew your job, regardless of whatever it was helping out someone else who was in turn going to help out someone else, you would probably do your job a lot better. Correct?
It seems likely.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. It's like so many people do such shit at their jobs because they know their jobs don't fucking matter in the long run. Most people's jobs, like if they will be disappeared if it saves $5 on the company line. It's ridiculous. And like that's the part that bothers me the most about this AI art stuff is that, yes, I don't like AI art. I totally get it. I don't want it to be in my Dungeons and Dragons books. I want people to be paid for it, but I understand why they are doing it. Why don't you understand why they are doing it?
Right.
Instead of sitting there bitching and moaning about it, go do something about it. Go smash a server over somewhere.
Go beat up a robot.
Go beat up Pet B. He's making the robots. Go beat him up.
Yeah.
So I mean, like that's like the news. It's depressing gaming news that I've had to deal with.
You're all hepped up.
I know. It's all super depressing and angry, and it makes me sad. But that's kind of like the three angry things that I had today. I know. What's your cool thing though?
All right, my cool thing is a TCG.
Ooh, what's a T? I also have a cool game I'm going to talk about too when you're done.
All right, so this game is called Altered.
Altered,
Yeah, Altered, like
altered states or altered beast.
like Altered Beast. Yes. So Altered TCG. I was introduced to this game a little bit ago. It looks really incredible. So it's a digital physical game. Like there's a digital game, there's a physical game.
Okay.
And if you buy physical cards, you can scan your, this is going to sound familiar to a lot of people. When you can scan your card goes into the digital game as well. So you have a digital and a physical collection, which is pretty cool. That was just like the Age of Sigmar game, which is one of the best things about that game, was when you bought physical cards, you scanned them and you got the digital copies, which is awesome because that means like I had my full deck of cards in real life as well as the video game, which was dope. So same thing here with that. But then there's a different thing about this game, which I thought was pretty cool, is there's a print on demand service as well for the digital game. So you can actually print cards from your digital collection and get physical copies of them. And one of the reasons they have that is because one of the big things about this game is there's a card type called a unique, and you get this and you have the only version of this card. And what it is they basically had this like algorithm balance thing. So all of the unique cards are like the same power level, even though they do different things. And then what you can do is if you have a unique card, you can print physical copies of that. Excuse me. You can print physical copies of that card.
Yeah.
But you're the only one controlling the number of copies of that card that exist in the game. So if I have a card that's, pay 1 red, draw a card, and that's my unique, I'm the only person in the world who has that card with that configuration.
Huh.
If I choose to print more, I can go, oh, now I've made more. And then I can sell those on TCG Player or give them to you, my friends, to use the card that I have.
That's interesting. Are any of them good, or are they just kind of like whatever?
No, they're cool. So they're all, the idea is they're all impactful. So like the strongest cards in the game are going to be this unique card. So so the thing is, each card has different rarity levels, and then there's the specific rarity of unique is the one that has the this like algorithm balance thingy. So and another thing that about this like physical to digital fusion too is there's going to be a card. There's going to be what are they? There's like you can use so you can print a man, you can get a foil thing, and you can print your cards in foil.
That's fun. So
Yeah.
is this the Kickstarter one? Because that's what I'm looking at right now.
Yes.
Okay, it looks really nice. I really like the art design on it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, the game is it's a race. I forgot to say the the subject matter of the game. So instead of being the normal like you're two wizards fighting and killing each other or whatever using stuff, the idea is that you're racing in a fantasy world, literally like a competitive race. And the way the game operates is that there's kind of a track in the middle of the board, and you start with a racer on the leftmost side of the track and on the rightmost side of the track. And then the game is about trying to get your two racers to meet each other on the same space somewhere on the map.
Okay, I get it. It sounds interesting enough. It sounds a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, just in terms of like A, it's a card game, and B, like this whole printing on demand stuff and everything like that sounds like it's too much effort for me. But that's just me. I'm I'm like, what? I have to print my stuff? I can't put these in my bicycle spokes and make like motorcycle noises with them?
Right.
That's what I want to do. Vroom, vroom.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's cool. Is it so it's not dropped yet? So you don't actually know if the gameplay is that good yet?
No. Yeah, I don't know anything. Like all the stuff I have is like it's a lot of just like speculative stuff and things from the Kickstarter.
I mean, that's not saying anything. I mean, if it looks cool, I mean, I trust you enough that I know your eye, that if you see something like that, that you'd be like, okay, this is cool in comparison to the 80 other card games that are on there.
Right, exactly. That's it. Like, you know, it caught my eye. Like, how often has it been since I've talked about a Kickstarter?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's, you know, it's definitely really nicely put together. I kind of like the way it looks. It looks simplistic enough that I don't mind it.
Yeah, no, it's that's the thing. It's like they really pushed for an all ages feel to the game, but it doesn't
it doesn't look too kiddie. It looks
it doesn't have a
very much
pandering vibe. That's what
yeah,
it looks,
no, that's a good way of putting it.
yeah, it doesn't have a pandering vibe. It's like okay, it's like I can vibe with all the characters, like all the art looks cool. Like it doesn't look specifically kiddie, but it doesn't also look adult. It just looks like really cool high fantasy art.
So I'm also getting into a new game right now.
Oh yeah.
So my gaming group, we really haven't had a game that we've played like as a group, like where we've all kind of collected in together and we put together shit in a long time, probably since pre-pandemic. We're just kind of getting back into the swing of things.
Okay.
And I happened to find a rule set for a game that was actually put out fairly a while ago in 2017 at a discount bookstore, and I kind of fell in love with the game.
Okay, I'm ready.
Going through the rules. You're gonna laugh at this, but it's Dracula's America: Shadows of the West.
That sounds awesome.
It is a vampire cowboy game.
That sounds super awesome.
And I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. Just as in joking, like I thought it was like such a silly, it's like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
But it going through the actual rule set, I was like, I kind of like this. It's very, very unique in several aspects for wargaming. Not unique in the mechanics are from lots of other games, and you're gonna be like, oh, I know that. That's from Deadlands. That's from Shadowrun.
Oh, nice.
But so the game is basically you get little war bands of cowboys and you shoot at each other. Some of the war bands are like vampire war bands, like you get a vampire, and some of them you get like a demon, and some of them you'll get like a werewolf, this kind of thing, right?
Okay.
Of course, the Native Americans have to have the shapeshifters, the skinwalkers, because
of course. That's their thing.
Because that's their thing in everything ever produced. Like, I don't know if this guy is British, but his name is very, very British. His name is Jonathan Haythornwaite.
Holy shit, that might be the most British name I've ever fucking heard in my life.
Exactly. And you know how I know he's British? It's because he has the Confederates in the game. It's like they're bad guys, but they still has Confederates in the game, which goes to show me that this guy has no idea of the current political situations going on in America. That's most war gamers in general. They go, I don't see the problem with having this in the game. It's like, well, you do when you see some of the people who are going to take advantage of that situation.
Yes.
But yeah, so basically the whole thing is that like after the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln wins the Civil War by having Dracula as his consultant. And then Abraham Lincoln is killed, and he says that Dracula can take over as his final wish. I'm like, that's not even how U.S. politics works. But Dracula basically becomes the de facto president of America, or ruler of America.
President Dracula.
President Dracula. My new movie coming out.
That is the dumbest fucking thing ever.
I know, it's so stupid.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I do like, there are certain mechanics in the game that I kind of like, this would be fun for like a really fun like one-off, or just like a couple games, or like a pickup game. So each player gets a deck of cards, and turn sequence is played off. Like, so if you have 10 guys in your war band, you pick up 10 cards, right? Okay. Stop smoking during the fucking cast. You can't handle it. Stop it. Did you mute yourself?
Huh?
No, it's nothing. So yeah, you get like 10 guys in your war band, you pull up 10 cards, and then you play war basically with the cards.
Okay.
To see who goes first during the activation for, 2 models. So I go, you go style.
Right on.
which is it's nice. The only problem is that in the rule book it's that he's like, okay, well, black cards will always beat red cards in case of a tie. So if you both pull out, if I have a black 5 and you have a red 5, the black 5 will go first. That makes sense. And he goes, if you both pull black 5s, then you roll off. And I'm like, that's dumb. You should do it by suit then. It should go, like spades, clubs, hearts, diamonds. So you go, or no, it would be clubs, spades, hearts, diamonds, because that's the backwards of how poker works.
Sure.
So, like, I don't know why he didn't do that, but whatever.
Probably didn't think of it.
Probably didn't think of it, but no, he actually wrote in there like, you will roll off. It's like, no, there's different suits. You don't have to do that.
No,
I may have missed.
He probably didn't think of deciding it by the suits.
Yeah,
he probably got tunnel visioned.
It might be, and then so that's fun in and of itself. It's a nice little way of doing it. I've liked games where I've had to do less dice rolling lately. Just in terms of, dice should be used for combat. Dice don't need to be used for everything in the game. I kind of feel like you in a lot of ways where it's like there's too much variance with dice when you're doing this sort of stuff.
Yes.
Like, give me something else to be fiddly with. And then the combat or all of everything you're doing in the game is based off tests with dice. So your characters, your warband are all based off ranks. You have novice, veteran, and heroes. Novice base everything off of a D6 dice. So you have to pass with like a 4+ on a D6, right? The veterans do it on a D8. So you have a better chance. And then heroes do it on a D10. So all tests are taken on a D10. If you get better than a 4+ on a D10, it's a lot easier to do because you're your hero character.
Sure.
Now, specific tests like shooting will say, with specific gun, we'll say, okay, it's a 3 dice test. So you pull out 3d6 if you're a novice and you roll it on 3d6 and then your successes are based on that, which is, I think, an interesting way of doing it. Instead of just 1 dice, it's 3 dice or 4 or however many the test demands. Now, the cool thing on top of that is that all of your negatives and positives to your modifiers work like Shadowrun, where they add or take away dice.
Okay.
So you have to pull from a dice pool instead of a modifier to the actual dice roll. So the dice rolls will all remain the same. It's just that you get more or less dice depending upon the situation. I like that concept for a miniature war game. I haven't seen that in a minis war game in a long time.
It really is a kind of a hodgepodge.
Yeah, it's like you get like the Deadlands way of doing stuff with poker cards. You get Shadowrun's way of doing dice.
This is it Savage Worlds? Is it using the Savage World system?
Might be. I'm not 100%. Yeah.
Because now the thing, because you're like, if you have like pistols, your pistols will be a D4, right?
No, it doesn't work. The guns don't work on the dice. The dice is attached to the character.
Or your character has like a stat, and their stat is a dice, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's Savage Worlds. I'm like, I mean, it's been a while since I've actually looked at the Savage World rules, I must admit, but that sounds like how I remember Savage Worlds to be.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's taken a lot from a lot of different RPGs to put into a tabletop into a miniatures game, which is you don't normally see that often.
That's what they did. They literally they designed the game to be what you wanted it to be. Like exactly like that. Like they were like, they took all of those good things from all those RPGs and they're like, all right, we're gonna make this work in a war game.
Yeah, I think that's what they should be doing more with war games lately, because I think wargaming has become a little stale in its presentation and its rules. Like too many games are just trying to ape the GW system of, here's your stat line and here's your keywords, go at it. Like, sure. I want a little bit more than that. Give me something a little bit unique. Don't get me wrong, I like that system for how just easy it is for everybody to understand, but I'd like a war game with a little something different.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
No, it's like even my second favorite war game after the GW stuff, which is Bolt Action, still uses a very, very similar GW system for doing things. I was talking about this game with some guys over at the friendly local gaming store. And then because we were talking about cowboy games in general, and I was like, I really like the old Warhammer Historicals one. the one based off the Lord of the Rings rule set. And the only problem with that is that the shooting was so clunky, you never got like any good shooting off. You always wanted to get in a hand-to-hand combat because that was the only way you could guarantee taking out someone. You shoot at it with a pistol, you maybe had a 1 in 6 chance of taking them down.
Yeah.
And then we were talking like, because apparently there's been like 1 or 2 other cowboy games that have been released lately. One by Knuckle Duster that put it out. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head though. And then he was like, "Oh, and then Two Fat Lardies put out one." I'm like, they're the worst." Like, I like that they're a British game company, but they're they literally take the fun out of every war game I've ever seen. They pretend to be so fun about their war games, but their war games are so just full of themselves. I don't know if that's a good way of describing it, but they're just so fucking not monotonous.
I thought they were a little dry.
They're dry. That's the word. That's a good way of putting it. Yes, the rule sets are very, very dry. And it's just like, could you imagine a cowboy like a cowboy game from Two Fat Lardies where it's just like you hear the background bang 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 bang, and then they go inside and you have to roll like 18 dice to figure out what the fuck you're going to be doing when you're getting into your bar fight.
Well, you have to roll to aim, and then you have to roll to see if your bullet doesn't misfire, and if your bullet doesn't misfire, then you have to apply the distance modifier, and then the
well, you have
weather
to you have to look at your stat block first.
Yes, you need the stat block.
Yeah, a stat block and your rank and everything else on top of it. Actually, one thing that I kind of liked about this this game, Dracula's America, is that there was no stat block period for your guys. Everything is just D6. That's it. Like you want a stat block? Nope. You don't get a stat block. It's all D6. Okay, sounds fun. Let's give it a try. It just seems like a very, very unique game. So I'm gonna put together some stuff for it. I printed out some cowboy minis. Here.
I actually had a I was mucking around trying to do my own rule set for a 10mm.
Ooh.
And one of my ideas was essentially I was going to make a custom deck of cards and then transfer it so that you could also use generic, because I'm a big, so I think I've talked about it before. I'm a huge fan of gimmick components, but I don't like gimmick components that aren't replicatable without buying the components.
Yeah, like the good example would be Fantasy Flight Star Wars shit, where it's got all of those very specific dice.
Yes, and they're like very, very specific, where like you can't like substitute them because it's like this dice doesn't work as any other dice.
You just need like a chart to figure it out.
It's chart level. So mine, I want it to be easily replaceable with a normal 52 card poker deck.
So why you want to do 10mm, huh?
Because of the cards. Because
the cards, man, the cards.
Because the cards. So when you get your hand or whatever, without getting into the details of how all this shit is generated, you play a card down, and that's how you move your unit. So you actually put the card down on the table, and you move the unit across the card.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's 10mm, because the cards are small.
The cards are your movement.
Yes, the cards are your movement. In addition to being your movement, the cards are also another effect as well. So you can so everything is resolved by the cards. So if you want to move, it's the card. If you want to attack, it's the card. If you want to, and then if you're casting a spell, it's the card. Like literally everything is cards. So like, say you want to shoot, your range will be, say your range is 2 cards. So you flip the top card of your deck, that goes in front of your unit, and then you flip the next top card of your deck, you touch the first card because your range is 2 cards, but then the second card is also your damage. So if you flip the 7, your second card's flipped, just like, oh, you did you did 7 damage, and you hit because you're within 2 cards range.
I'll say something relatively unpopular. I don't think you should make this translatable into a bigger card deck. I think you should just do your own card deck for it. I think that would make way more sense, I think. Because then you'd be selling, literally the game would just be the deck. I mean, yeah, you'd have to have a rule book, but like the game is the deck. is basically what I'm trying to
Oh,
say.
that's true. Yeah, I would never have to give a shit about actually doing it. I literally could just make this a deck of cards that someone could buy, and you could just use it to play with whatever 10mm
Yeah.
figures you want.
Yeah, I think that would make more sense than actually having it translatable into a regular deck of cards. And plus, you could do like really cool terrain or really cool imagery on the cards, which I think would be better for the game itself. You can get AI art to generate it for you.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm sure I could talk to some wonderful fetish artists using AI art on X right now.
Well, you know they're in the fucking communal goon caves working
the Kuno Goon
24.
caves.
They're in the horrifying communal goon caves.
I wasn't invited.
they're in the horrifying communal goon caves, working round the clock to produce the most degenerate filth you've ever seen in your entire life from an AI bot.
There you go. An AI bot that's got the what's it called? The shackles on it so that it can't say like the word penis. So you have to work around it.
They've got the unshackled ones.
They have the unshackled ones. I didn't know there were unshackled ones.
Well, so basically like,
that sounds dangerous.
Well, there's a Cold War going on between like the user base of the AI and the AI people, but basically the user base is learning code words in order to get around the way. To get around the blocks.
Interesting.
So that's what they do. They basically you basically have like a script that you copy and paste that unchains the bot you're working with.
Unchain my bot.
Yes. Show me 7-foot cocks all on my screen.
7-foot penises.
Yes.
So,
that's a good idea. I will do that. Maybe I'll design that as a straight up like, here's the deck.
I mean, in all honesty, Steve, too, you can just print the 10mm armies onto cards as well and just have them move around on the cards.
That's true.
I mean, I love minis as well, but I mean that would actually be kind of neat to have. Is like you get your deck and that's your army, and you could either build it from there or you could do like a random shuffle of your army. I don't know. That kind of feels, what that feels a little bit like? Remember the old Sabretooth Old World game or Warcry?
Yeah.
It's very similar to that in a lot of, or it sounds a lot like Disc Wars in a lot of respect too.
Oh man, Disc Wars.
That's it. You know what? Disc Wars, not a bad game.
I don't like manual dexterity games.
It's not that manual dexterity though. It's not that bad.
Don't you have to flick to move? Like you.
I mean, yeah, but it's not like you flip it. You flip the tokens to move, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I thought you actually
there were versions of Disc Wars where you did flick it for movement.
Oh, I see.
I think in the Warhammer one you flipped the actual tokens that were your armies.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
I think that's the way it worked. I'm not 100% sure. Who knows? But yeah, that's the game I'm currently kind of doing some stuff for. I'm doing it all 3D printed. So I have all my 3D printed little cowboys. I'm doing some, I'm working on a bank right now, printing a bank. You can't have an Old West town without a bank.
That's true. You gotta have the bank. I mean, what else are you gonna rob?
The saloon, maybe? No, you wouldn't rob the saloon.
You never rob the saloon. You have the bar fight in the saloon.
That's true. What about Elmer's Hardware? You could rob Elmer's Hardware. Well, no, you could also rob the stagecoach. If I got a stagecoach, yeah.
Sure, yeah, you can rob a stagecoach.
Because I do have a stagecoach model that I'm going to print out because I want to rob the stagecoach. And I'm going to have a little peony player. Bing, bang, bing, 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 bing. No, the funny thing is I don't even like cowboy genre that much. It's not like the Old West does nothing for me generally. And I'm kind of dreading painting these figures because there's so many browns that are the Old West painting that kind of just make me very, very nauseous thinking about it. But, I mean, it's only going to be like 20 models. I could do that.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that bad.
So yeah, that's, it's just like everything Old West always just reminds me of Back to the Future Part 3. So I basically, it's like technically my favorite Western.
Dun, 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 dun,
No, you gotta do the Back to the Future 3. Oh,
I forgot they had a different song.
Yeah, because I know people don't like Back to the Future Part 3, but I absolutely adore that movie. It's so stupid, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the dumbest movies of all time, but it's also great.
Yeah, I I really don't understand why people don't like Back to the Future's Part 2 and 3 as much as they should, because those movies are just pure fun.
Yeah, they're great.
And I always I would show Back to the Future Part 2 in class when we were talking about, we would do science fiction, and I would say it's a great example of how people thought living in the 2000s would be in 1980, 30 years ago. And it's like, how much did they get wrong? They got literally everything wrong, with like the exception of a big TV and maybe touch screens. That's about it.
Yeah, they did not get much right. There's no hoverboards.
No hoverboards, no flying cars, no food dehydrators, no TV windows. They did get voice activation correct. I think they got Siri. There's no home faxes. We don't have home faxes.
Well, we don't know home faxes, but we do the video chat.
We do have video chat, but no one ever uses video chat except if you're a boomer.
That's true. But we do have it. And then there's AI celebrities.
Was there an AI celebrity?
Yeah, there was CGI Ronald Reagan.
Oh yeah, but I guess technically. Well, you did say well a lot.
Yeah. What else did they do? The video glasses, the VR glasses. He uses VR glasses.
Yeah, but no one ever actually uses those, though.
I mean, they exist, though.
They do exist. You are correct. They do exist. The VR glasses, the retro video games that no kids want to play, only adults.
Yeah, that.
Exist. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually maybe their biggest hit.
You got to use your hands.
It's a baby's toy.
Exactly. My favorite is like when I take my children to go play stand-up arcade games. They get so bored so quickly, just because of how I don't want to say bad, but it's just like how primitive those games are.
They're antiquated.
Yeah, and it's like, for myself, I enjoy doing it because that's what I did as a kid, and my brain is still wired to be able to do Burger Time. But I don't think my kids can.
I love Burger Time.
I don't think my kids can do Burger Time. Their brains do not work like that, which is funny because most of those stand-up arcade games are pretty much the exact same designs as most of the games on their phones. You don't
use your fingers on the screen though.
That's true. Where you just move from side of the screen to the other side of the screen, and you're just trying to avoid getting hit. It's the exact same thing as most of the games that my kids play.
Yeah, but you don't use your fingers on the screen. I guarantee you, if those stand-up arcade machines were touch screens, they would be fine.
Oh, you think so?
I 100%.
Yeah. All right.
It's how you interact. It's like when boomers like post those videos like to be like to dunk on kids or whatever. Like it's really weird, but when like a kid like is trying to use something that is like not a smartphone and he's like trying to like make it move with his hand, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
And they're trying to make fun of the kid, and it's like no, like that you can't make fun of him. He's not interacted with media like that. Like like he's doing what he's been trained to do.
Yeah, it's like if you put, I don't know. Well, pinball is a bad example for our generation. I'm just trying to think of like an old timey game that, like, if you gave kids a hoop and a stick, if you gave like, someone from a millennial a hoop and a stick and said you can knock this down the street, we'd be like, what?
Yes.
And then we throw the stick at the person and rob them because we're degenerates.
Yeah. Well, yeah, obviously. You could use the hoop to imprison them. Although apparently the sex generation are the Zoomers.
Well, yeah. It's because they don't have Nancy Reagan telling them that sex is evil.
It's true.
I don't think we ever got that from Nancy Reagan, but I'm just assuming, even though she is the throat goat.
Yeah, she is the throat goat. She's the glizzy gladiator, and absolutely definitely had sex with Mike Tyson.
Did she? I didn't know.
No, not Mike Tyson. Not Mike Tyson. I'm sorry. Not Mike Tyson. Mr. T.
Mr. T. Oh, maybe
Mr. T.
I pity that fool.
Mr. T. Yeah. If you read Mr. T's eulogizing tweet about Nancy Reagan, it absolutely reads as if they had sex.
I will look this up.
You should. You should. Look up Mr. T's eulogizing Nancy Reagan tweet, and you tell me that it doesn't read like they made love at some point.
I think they didn't have sex. They made love. Steve.
They made love.
They made
love.
beautiful love together.
That's why I did intentionally change my verbiage.
All right. You know what? I do have one thing I wanted to a 3D printing thing I wanted to promote, and I think I'm going to do for the next cast. I'll do my since the Orcs and Goblins have been released, I'll do my Orc and Goblin proxy army rundown for the next cast. But I did want to go over a maker that I really enjoy, and he just put out a bunch of stuff for Solar Auxilia, which are the new kind of army for Warhammer 40K.
Okay.
Guy's name is Red Makers. He's on Cults 3D. Red Makers, all one word. REDMAKERS. He does proxies of almost all of the guard regiments. So I got a few of them, and just to kind of print them out and to see, they're chunky, but I love the chunkiness of them. They're so nice to handle and paint that even the stuff that he's doing that's like that shouldn't be as chunky as it is just feels better in the hand while painting. I really enjoy what he's got, and his tanks are fun too. I actually printed out one of his tanks that he did, and I really like it. It's
Awesome.
like a fun little print. Well, it's not a little print; it's a fun big print, but I liked it quite a bit, and the pre-supported models are actually pretty good, which is unusual for a lot of 3D designers nowadays. Their pre-supported figures tend to not print as well, but this guy's prints very, very well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I would take a look at that. He just put out a bunch of stuff for the Solar Auxilia. Take a look. Very nice. Other company that if you could find it, take a look at it. And I'm also sending this out there because I talked about it a little bit with the Cowboy War Games. It's a company that's called Join or Die. They've done a couple Kickstarters, mostly historical stuff, but they did two Old West ones called Wanted, and then what's the other one called? Death on the Plains, I think is what it's called. All of them are just like little war bands for cowboys, and they're very, very nice, proportionate sculpts that are flavorful, look really good, clean up really nice, and print very clean. I've not had an issue with it. Plains of Terror. I think that's what I said, right? Yeah, Plains of Terror.
Plains of Terror. Cool.
Yeah. Plains of Terror has a little bit more of the stuff that you'd want for, let's say, Dracula's America, because you could get vampires and, witch hunters and everything else in there.
Dracula's America.
You could get Draculas for your
It gets me so good.
When I say Draculas instead of vampires.
No, Dracula's America. I mean, Dracula's instead of vampires is definitely correct as well. But also, Dracula's America is just so funny.
It's a stupid concept. But yeah, and you can get nuns with guns and stuff like that. It's just really well. Oh, and they have a time machine, so you can have you could do Back to the Future Part 3. Push it into a cave. Back in time. Sorry, you're just too loud. All right. Is there anything else major gaming wise that we have yet to talk about?
I don't think so.
I think we got most of it. I know. I'm sorry I was such a downer at the beginning, but I want some more uplifting gaming stuff as opposed to all of this angry nonsense that's been going on. Yeah, whatever. It just happens. Actually, I've heard that they're doing a full release of all the AOS stuff next weekend.
I did not know that. That sounds dope. I'm excited now.
The whole box set. I think it's going to get. I think it's dropping alongside. Like all of that information is dropping alongside the 500th issue of White Dwarf.
Hell yeah, let's go. I am excited.
Yeah, so I think everything that drops this weekend, or it would be a week from today on Saturday.
Sweet.
So the 18th, or maybe the 16th. That I think that Thursday might be a full drop too. So we'll see all the contents, and I'm pretty much assuming that all of the Stormcast stuff, aside from the characters, are going to be redesigned figures from the first box set, because that's what it looked like to me. Like, that's what it looks like they're doing. Everything is just a redesign of the first edition Stormcast stuff.
Yeah. That's why all those models got shelved.
Yeah, and that's 100% why. But it'll be nice to see the Skaven. That's what I'm kind of interested in seeing. I want to see like what's in the box. Like, the sculpts are nice, and it's like, oh, cool. There's 10 Skaven models, but how many? Of those 10 Skaven, are we getting 30 Skaven? Are we getting 40 Skaven in the box? What's it going to look like?
Yeah, exactly. Is it gonna? Are we gonna get a Skaven amount of Skaven, or is it going to be one of those things where it's just like, oh,
yeah? I mean, look, the Dominion Stormcast stuff, I think, looks fantastic. The more I've kind of looked at it and played with it a little bit, it's a real all that stuff is really beautiful. So it'll be whatever Stormcast stuff they have in the new box will look just as good, I think. But I'm really interested in seeing what the Skaven, like the total amount of Skaven stuff that's going to be in there.
Yeah, for sure. Very exciting.
So look for that next week. So, of course, the week after we post our podcast. But it doesn't really matter, because what are we going to say? The stuff looks good. Steve, the stuff looks good.
That looks good. I like this model. And then you could be like, I don't like this model. I'll be like, oh, I like it. And then I'll be like, well, I like this model. You'll be like, I hate it.
I think you're stupid for liking it, Steve.
No, you're stupid for liking this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff.
Oh, yeah. You know what I did? I picked up a board game.
Oh yeah, what's that?
I picked up 2 board games. Did I talk about Hues and Cues before?
I've actually played Hues and Cues.
I love that game. I just picked it up for the family.
Yeah, fun game.
Yeah. I mean, it's really good for people, especially America's illiterate population, when trying to describe something in one word. Like you have to think of adjectives or nouns, and people are just like,
is that an actual thing that's like happening? Is there?
Yes, America is very much becoming dumber. Like, it's
very good.
It's very difficult for people to describe anything. It's good training for kids to come up with some good fancy words, like frog.
Very good then.
I also picked up Heat, which is the race car game. I've yet to play it. I just picked it up yesterday.
Oh, nice.
I look forward to seeing Cakes going the distance as playing it. He's going the distance.
He's striving and running, enjoying the course.
Yeah. It's a great song.
It is
a great band. Great forgotten 90s band, Cake.
It's a good band.
Yes. All right. So, Steve, wait, I got to go through the whole spiel. I almost forgot about the whole thing. So go to the Game Classy Facebook page. It's the best way to find the link to the Game Classy Discord, where we talk about people. Oh, you know what? I put up some stuff there. You want to make fun of some of the stuff that they said on the Discord?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Your comments on, you need 4,000 points to field a balanced 2,000 point army.
No, just make a 2,000 point army.
I know. Seriously. You don't need to balance anything. Fuck balance. Just play your game.
Make it look cool.
When you field a Warhammer army, 25% of that army needs to be made of out of print models from previous editions, because if you don't have them, the army will look incomplete and unfinished. That's why you go and buy 3D printed models or models from another company. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Don't give GW any more of your money. Metropolis is
technically, you're not giving them any money if you're hunting down out of print models. But anyway, carry on.
It's true. Well, they sell some out of print models now, which doesn't make them out of print anymore, but still. Metropolis is one of the best movies ever made and is easily one of the top 10 sci-fi films. Horror movies from the 30s and 40s are better written, acted than most modern movies. I will disagree with that 100% as a person who's watched a lot of those movies.
I will also disagree with it. I like those films, but
yes, I like them very much. The cinematography is usually the best thing in those movies. Also, like, the sets look as amazing as they do because they basically use slave labor to build them. They were paying some Irish immigrant a nickel a day to put together that set for them.
Here you go, Patty. Don't spend it all at the bar.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Steve. I truly appreciate it.
I know you do. I know you do, Rummy.
I'm going to go home and beat my wife.
With a sack of potatoes.
with the sack of potatoes. This is what Irish guy going. They've made me list now.
Man, we are on the list. I know. I just think it's like, do you ever just sit back and think about like how hysterical like I mean it's horrible that like people are like this like in reality, but like on the other hand, do you ever think how hysterical it is that like people are like super racist towards Irish people?
You know what? In this point in my life, I think any form of racism is really, really funny. Not like funny as in like, ha ha ha, ha that was a funny racist joke, but it's like, it's more of it's more just funny that people are still racist in general. But yes, that there was at one point when people were super racist towards Irish it's very hard to understand, so it becomes funny.
Yes, exactly. It's like it's so odd. It's like what? Like,
Well, yeah. It's odd just from a modern perspective. I mean, when you're like that guy who's like, well, I've studied the history like you've studied the blade.
yeah, I'm sure someone could give me the intricacies of exactly why and the socioeconomic things and it's because of political class, blah blah blah. It's because of English, because they English versus Ireland, whatever, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, well, and it's the same thing. That's like the same thing with any form of racism nowadays. To me, it's just like why is this still a thing? Like, what is your problem? Kind of.
Oh, gotta be mad about something, I guess.
Gotta be mad about. Gotta nuke something. But yes. How screw? We already talked about Asmodee.
Yes.
Capitalism is a fuck. Yes, I think that's gonna be our whole podcast in general.
except it don't let you fuck because they made prostitution illegal.
Actually, there's a bill going through Illinois' General Assembly right now trying to legalize prostitution in Illinois.
I mean, yeah, we should vote yes on that.
There you go. Let's see. Then it's just people complaining about capitalism. So, yay!
I too have played Command and Conquer Red Alert.
Space.
All
right. So yeah, you can find all that fun stuff on the Discord page. You could also like, comment, subscribe on the iTunes, and like, comment, subscribe on the YouTubes. Could someone let me know if I got the podcast onto Spotify? I think I tried to do that because someone was requesting it. I'm not 100% sure that it went through, but if someone could look, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so if you want to see more of my stuff, you can go to @GameClassyJoe. I just posted some stuff about my recent D&D game. It's pretty fun. I had them fight a mimic house, Steve.
Yeah? How'd that go?
It was good. It was like I basically had someone going, now you good. Now you Dungeons and Dragons party. Don't go touching that treasure chest. And they're like, we won't. We're going to go touch the treasure chest, right? It's a mimic, right? And they're like, yeah. And so they basically fought the mimic treasure chest, and then the chairs came to life as a mimic, and then the table came to life as a mimic, then the bookcase came to life as a mimic, and then the house came to life as a mimic. The mimic was designed for the mimic house party attack was designed for 6 people, and I had 2 call out on the game, so it was only 4 people. I had to tone it down a little bit because that mimic house would have wrecked them.
Fair enough.
Yes.
That's pretty cool though.
Mimic house. And then if you want to see more Steve stuff, you can see him on Blue Sky at Command Throw.
It's true.
It is very NSFW.
It's true.
Or NSFL in a lot of ways.
Also true.
Yes.
I still haven't gotten my photograph of me with the shirt that has the arrow pointing up, and then the words "the owner of Boner" and an arrow pointing down. I need to get that shirt.
I will take it. Actually, I saw a T-shirt the other day of Garfield, and what did it say? It said, "I got to get me some of that medicinal marinara." Give me some of that medicinal marinara.
Medicinal marinara. Jesus Christ.
I was like, that's a wonderful shirt. I want to get that for my grandma.
Hey, I want that on a sweater.
I know. Well, it's a T-shirt, and I kind of really want it. It's got Garfield is smoking a joint, holding a lasagna, but his hands are oddly human shaped. Like they're weird. They have like long fingers.
I see it. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. Oh, I hate it. It's so fucked up. His fucking hands.
I know, but I'm really.
If you look up, listen, dear listener, if you please direct your phone or computer to Google and search for Garfield medicinal marinara.
The hands are so creepy.
The hands are horrible.
I highly recommend it.
Holy shit! What a fucking shirt.
Yes. As I say, I'm a big fan of the medicinal marinara.
Oh, what a fucking shirt. That tickled my fancy.
All right. So, Steve, until next cast.
Give me some of that medical marinara.
I like how you're like medicinal marinara, but no, it's medical marinara.
It's medical marinara. I fucked up. I googled medicinal marinara, but the shirt says medical marinara.
I googled medicinal marinara.
I googled medicinal marinara. You should name the episode that. I googled medicinal marinara.
I will do that. There we go. Later.
Game Classy.